Good day, viewers, and welcome to another OnSide SA soccer show. Paul is away in Cape Town at the sales, So joining me shortly will be our regular UK correspondent, Stevie Braham. But we kick off, as always, with our post-net last one standing competition. And our current competition has 3 entries left. They are Dave Harker, Derek Ramsey, and Ravi Naidu. One of our entrants has selected Fulham to beat Chelsea tonight. So I'll let everybody know later. I'm still waiting for another selection. So Ravi, good luck. Our next competition starts this Saturday. If you're keen to enter again, please let me know. And if you are doing the bank transfer, please put your name as the reference number. The trip, as always, is an overseas trip, unfortunately with me, to watch your UK team play a game of your choice. So guys, get studying, and it starts this weekend. Now going to cross over to Stevie B. And good morning, Steve.
Morning, Budge.
A couple of results in the League Cup last night.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Forest, maybe not a huge shock because they just picked up a bit.
Yeah.
Although obviously penalties is a bit of a lottery. But the Southampton result, I don't think anybody could call that.
Yeah.
We know that Pep normally takes this competition very seriously. They've won it, all 4 out of the last 5 years. But, Southampton hit them hard early on. And despite sort of bringing the big guns on in the second half, it couldn't change anything. So, I think a real upset. I know Pep, obviously, it's the least of the priorities, but maybe this is what Southampton need. 2 cup wins in the last few days. Whether or not they can carry this form into the league.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's amazing. You can see Pep Guardiola, Rodri's his key man, Mahrez, obviously De Bruyne and Haaland. So you can see who the guys he arresting. He arrested them on the Saturday as well against Chelsea. So United fans, be careful because you know what's coming. Steve, the semi-final draw has Southampton against Newcastle and Man United against Forest. They are 2-legged affairs. So you'd expect a Man United-Newcastle final, wouldn't you?
You would think so, especially over 2 legs, and it sets up nicely for both Man United and Newcastle playing the second leg at home.
Yeah.
But look, we've had surprises in this competition already. I think the public might be looking forward to a Man U Newcastle. Would be a huge game and an opportunity for Newcastle to break that hoodoo. They haven't won a domestic trophy since 1955,
yeah.
And as much as I think the board obviously want them to finish in the top 4. The fans want to go to Wembley and win a trophy. So I expect those semi-finals to be keenly fought, but I would have thought Newcastle and United would be favourites to go through.
Yeah, no doubt. First leg on the 24th of January, the second a week later, and the final Sunday, the 26th of February. And for all United fans, Sir Alex Ferguson won his first trophy when he knocked out Notts Forest away from home. Is this an omen for Eric Ten Hag to beat Notts Forest on the way to his trophy?
It could be, but certainly over 2 legs. I think. And look, United certainly seem to be showing a lot more sort of attacking prowess, and Rashford is on fire.
Yeah.
Even if he brings him on in the second half, he's still scoring goals. So they certainly need to wrap him in cotton wool, and Rashford stays fit. They're gonna have a good end to the season, I suspect.
Talking United, Steve Wout Weghorst, I watched him at Burnley, the German centre forward. What is the latest on him joining United on loan?
So my understanding is Besiktas is saying that until they can get a replacement, they don't see why they should let him go. I think there is a deal in place in principle. The player wants to go. Burnley happy for that to happen. Besiktas, I suspect, will let him go. But I guess the worry for the United is they can't allow it to drag too late into the transfer window, because if something happens and Besiktas refuse to release him, then United can't afford not to bring somebody in. But be an interesting one. He didn't sort of set the world on fire at Burnley, but I think they obviously saw the way he scored those goals in the World Cup and thought he could be a good target man.
Yeah, that's what you need, another Giroud type of player. Steve, as far as the manager's situation goes, Frank Lampard under severe pressure. If he gets beat this week, do you think they'll fire him or they'll give him a chance next week when they play at West Ham?
Well, the chairman, Mashiri, came out and backed him, and that sometimes that's often the kiss of death, isn't it? But look, last time out at home in the league, a shocking result to Brighton. This really is I wouldn't say a must-win game, but this probably is a must-not-lose game.
Yeah.
Home to Southampton, who have obviously found sort of form in the last couple of games. I think if he gets a result at the weekend, Frank, then I think that'll be a stay of execution. I don't think, we've discussed it before. I think a lot of the Everton fans feel the problem is with the board, and not with Frank. He's doing his best with what he's got. So I'm not sure they'd rush to sack him, but I think if the fans turn on him as well as the board, then I think the board may have no choice. But in the meantime, obviously they're in a relegation scrap again.
Yeah, I think it'll improve this weekend. Steve, big game tonight. Chelsea at Fulham. Felix Felix, will he play tonight? What is the latest? I know they've signed him on loan.
Well, he signed on loan. I think my understanding is they're waiting for international clearance. They expect that to come this morning, and if it does, he could well be available. Look, I've watched a lot of Fulham Chelsea games over the years. We have only beaten Chelsea once in 43 years. They're a bit of a hoodoo team to us. We've come close a number of times, but irrespective of the league position, I think this is going to be a pretty tough game for Fulham. So, especially without Mitrovic. So my heart says I'd love us to beat them. My head says I think Chelsea will probably come good tonight.
Is Mitrovic available for Sunday's game at Newcastle?
Yes, he is. Yeah, it's a one-match suspension, which is tonight. So he's back for the match at Newcastle on Sunday afternoon.
Sunday, another tough game. All right, Steve, you're going to go on to the betting for the weekend, and it kicks off with Aston Villa versus Leeds United. Aston Villa, terrible result, losing to Stevenage Borough on the weekend. Steve, can they rebound?
Look, they can. I mean, obviously he rested one or two, and that was a poor result. There's no question. Whatever team he put out, they should have won that. Leeds were struggling at Cardiff, came back, got out of jail with an injury time equaliser. Look, Leeds are making themselves hard to beat. I wouldn't be at all surprised if they sort of cancel each other out. I'm not sure that Villa should start as clear favourites as the odds are showing.
Yeah, I agree with you there, but I think this has got 1-1, 2-1 written all over it. But totally agree. I think 9-10, but you would expect an immediate reaction after Sunday's debacle. Man United, Man City, Steve. All my United mates are getting cocky. I don't see us winning. Hopefully you can say I'm wrong. How do you see it?
Look, I think this is going to be a lot closer than the last time they played. A couple of months ago. Both have got to play their strongest available 11, and I think they will. I think the home crowd are going to be roaring them on. I wouldn't be totally surprised if United hold them, but City will start as favourites. I think that having rested the key players last night and lost, I think Pep will be expecting them to show a bit of a reaction. But again, a month or so ago, you probably, before the World Cup, you would have fancied City, but United are showing that Ten Hag seems to be getting the best out of the team at the moment.
Yeah, I just hope he plays three midfield players and sacrifices. He's got to play three up front. Which way is he going to go? Is he going to play Bruno on the left, Rashford in the middle, and Anthony on the right? Because if he's going to play Martial, Rashford on the left, Anthony on the right, and Bruno in behind, we're going to get torn apart. Casemiro and Eriksen haven't got the legs. And Man City's strengths in their midfield. You have a look, Rodri, Gundogan, they've got Bernardo Silva and De Bruyne. United have got to try and match up in the middle of the park. If they can do that, they can upset them. But if they don't, I think this is going to be another long day for my boys. But I'd take a draw because the following weekend, I think we got Arsenal away. So 2 big games to see for our top 4 hopes. But the only other thing I think in United's favour, it is a lunchtime kickoff. So lunchtime kickoffs, they do tend to throw an upset or 2. So hopefully this is one of them. Now, a team that's in great form, Steve, fancied them last week. I took them to win the FA Cup as Brighton. They rotated their team and resoundingly beat Middlesbrough. Playing a Liverpool team who I thought they were lucky last week, Steve. I fancy Brighton here. Which way do you see it?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, when they played a few months ago, Trossard got a hat-trick, and they were sort of well worth that, 3-3. I mean, again, if you look at the betting odds, it shows Liverpool as clear favourites. Based on last time out in the league for Liverpool, it was a poor performance at Brentford, and you think Klopp has really got to work some magic to get them, to play, as we know they can. Brighton, the great thing about Brighton is they just be stronger away than they are at home.
Yeah.
It suits them sitting back, catching teams on the break. I think the odds seem a little bit too heavily stacked in Liverpool's favour. I think it will be close. I wouldn't be at all surprised if Brighton hold them. So, whether they can do enough to beat them, I'm not sure, because I think that Klopp will expect a reaction. Because again, they struggled a little bit against Wolves and could easily have lost if it wasn't for an offside flag. So I fancy Brighton to hold them. So I think it's going to be a good game, a close game.
Yeah, I think there'll be plenty of goals. That's one thing. Liverpool can score. One thing they can't do is defend. So I fancy Brighton to cause an upset. Steve, Everton, Southampton. I remember Everton, great result at Man City. The following game, they got destroyed by Brighton. I can see the reverse happening here. 12-10, they're my best bet. People think I'm crazy. Southampton, 2 great results. We were both on Palace last week. They did okay, but they didn't deserve to win. And last night, I think it's the best result they've had in years. I think they'll be leggy. I think Everton will be sitting, waiting for them. And I think Everton will win by at least a goal. What do you think?
Yeah, I think this is a huge game for Everton. There's no question. I think that they can't afford to even drop points against Southampton. Nathan Jones hasn't picked up a league point since he's been there. I think this will be a tough game for them. They're obviously going to be sort of full of confidence, but I think, as you say, they had to work really hard last night. And I think that if Everton get the best out of their players, I think that they should win. I think it'll be close, but I think Everton might win like the old goal in 3.
Yeah, I fancy Everton big time. Notts Forest, great result last night, winning on a penalty shootout against a Leicester City team. I was disappointed. They got beat 2-0 by Newcastle, which is fair, but they just didn't put too much of a fight up, Steve. And I don't know what's going on there, but I can see Forest winning a game. Can you?
Well, I think Steve Cooper seems to have a much better idea of his strongest 11. And if you look at their results, just before and just after the break, they're making themselves hard to beat, and certainly when they played against Chelsea recently, I thought they played very well. But Leicester have just disappointed me. You look at their best 11, you think this is still a decent side with Tielemans there. But again, they were caught out at home against Fulham, maybe a little bit unfortunate. But Tielemans isn't firing, and certainly Vardy isn't. I think that's a problem for them. Jamie Vardy had chances the other night, but he just seems to have lost a little bit of confidence. Forest, I think, could upset them. I think Leicester capable of getting a point. I think Forest probably deserve to be favourites. Yeah,
I just think that the contract situation with several players, Steve, are they coming, are they going? Are you going to give me a decent contract, or am I just going? And that's what it looks like. There just doesn't seem any fight or collective fight in the team. And you watch Forest, they're fighting tooth and nail for everything. It doesn't seem to me at Leicester, but not saying they can't win, but they won't have my money. On to our second page, and a big game for me is Wolves-West Ham. I've been impressed the job Lopetegu's done at Wolves in the last couple of weeks. West Ham, I backed them last week, Steve, when I saw their team out. Well, I saw Brentford's team out, but they were woeful. Their away form, 2 points from the last 7 league games. I don't see Wolves losing here, Steve. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think Wolves certainly have picked up, and on the balance of play last night, when I saw the highlights and read the reports, it sounded like they were the stronger team as the match wore on.
Yeah.
And they played well at Liverpool. He's got him and his back, whether he'd start with them or not. But West Ham have done a little better away from home at times. They got a good result up at Leeds. I think, like you say, I think Wolves, their problem is scoring goals in the league, and that's been a huge issue for them. I think, to me, I think Wolves probably do deserve to start as favourites, but it sounds like going to be a very low scoring game. Maybe Wolves might just come out on top.
Yeah, just couldn't believe when I was watching. Brentford played much a reserve team and couldn't believe they just won 1-0. Talking of Brentford, they cost me a few bets last week when they never scored. At home against Bournemouth, Steve, I expect them to play their main team, Ivan Toney as well. Surely they've got to beat Bournemouth.
You would think so. I mean, even without Tony, they look how they did against Liverpool.
Yeah.
Bournemouth are struggling at the moment. That's the question. And I think that if Brentford carry on with the sort of form they've shown, I think they should be worthy favourites.
Yeah, got to fancy Bournemouth. Couldn't believe they rested all their players with no midweek game in the FA Cup. Can't believe it. Big game on Sunday, Steve, for Chelsea. Obviously, it depends on tonight's game, but I've watched previous games between Chelsea and Crystal Palace, and Palace haven't put up a fight. I've watched them last week against Southampton. They were woeful, and I think this is an easy victory for Chelsea. Do you agree with me?
Yeah, I think so. I think whatever the results tonight at Fulham, I think that he's definitely going to start playing 1, 2 or 3 of his new players who are going to be hungry. Yeah. He's got Dennis Zakaria, a Swiss player who's looking, looked like the best player when he came on last week. I think he's looking to chop and change his team a bit. But yeah. I think whatever team he puts, that should be too strong for Palace. Palace have had some pretty poor results recently. That defeat against Tottenham, defeat against Fulham. They can. It's almost like they concede one and the floodgates open.
Yeah.
So the defence is very leaky at the moment. So I think if Chelsea hit their straps, they could win by at least 2.
Yeah, totally agree. I think Chelsea win easy. Steve, big game for you, especially after tonight's game. I know you'd take a point, but I just think Newcastle will beat you on Sunday, especially with their home form. How do you see it?
Yeah, no, I think it's a lot. I mean, I expect sort of maximum effort from the team tonight. We haven't got the depth of squad to start rotating too much because it would weaken it, and therefore I think the team that plays tonight, the majority, including Mitrovic, will play on Sunday.
Yeah.
And I think unless Newcastle really have an off day, I think Newcastle will be clear favourites at home.
Yeah. Big game on Sunday, Steve. Tottenham, Arsenal. Pity I didn't get Paul's comments, but in Tottenham's favour, the last 7 home games against the Gunners, they've won 5 and drawn 2. I think there's goals in this, Steve. But which way do you see it going?
Well, I mean that game at the end of last season that Tottenham basically beat them and took their 4th place spot. This is going to be a much closer game. I mean, I think people have enjoyed watching Arsenal this season. They've got, they're converting those chances into goals, and they're looking sort of tougher at the back. Depends what Tottenham we're going to get. Tottenham can't afford to start slowly and end up sort of being a goal down and 2 goals down at half time. So, I think he needs his front 2 or 3 to start firing from the start and to take those chances. I think it'll be a great game. I mean, Tottenham can't afford to lose this because they could start losing ground on the top 4.
Yeah.
Arsenal are conscious that they're 5 points clear of City, and they want to try and keep that gap. I'm really looking forward to it. I think Arsenal will start as favourites, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if Tottenham hold them.
Yeah, last time I think it was 2-2. I think there's plenty of goals here, especially the way Spurs. But I agree, Steve. If they don't start quick, they could be 2 down in a flash, and coming back will be difficult. Steve, on to the Championship, where they've all played mainly 5 or 6 games, so we do have better form to work on. And Saturday lunchtime, Rotherham, who surprisingly have fallen away. Their home form always kept them in it, but facing a Blackburn team who seems to have come right a bit. Which way do you see it going?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, a lot of people predicted Rotherham to go down.
Yeah.
They've made a really good start, but as you say, they're starting to fall away a bit. Blackburn, well, it's either win or lose with them. 6 games in the league, 14 wins, 12 defeats.
Yeah.
But they've shown a little bit more form recently, and I would be very surprised if they don't get 3 points there.
Yeah, must say so do I. Don't see them getting beat, but you just never know in the Championship. 5 o'clock kickoff games, SA time. Bristol City, Birmingham City. Steve, which way do you see it going?
Yeah, I think it'll be a close game. Birmingham have just gone off the boil a little bit when they started a bit of a run. Bristol City, you're just not sure what you're going to get from them. I think they will certainly start as favourites. They do score goals. Birmingham are tight at the back. I think it will be close, but if I had to sort of pick a winner, I'd probably go with the home team.
Yeah, it's just hard with Bristol City. I've watched them. We get the championship on ESPN, and every time they play at home, they don't win. They've got 2 draws and 4 defeats in their last 6. So I can't be with them, Steve. I think there's going to be goals. That's the way. I saw 8.5 to 10 both teams to score. So that's the way I'm going. Burnley too good for Coventry, Steve?
Losing at home to Wrexham, but Burnley are on a run. They've won. All the last 5 league games. They put out a strongish team at Bournemouth, but won very convincingly. I think they'll be too strong, and as things are going, I think Vincent Kompany has got them playing well. He's got young players coming through, and they look superb. And I think that they're worthy. They deserve to be at the top of the table.
Yeah, I totally agree. 7 home wins in a row. Do you think he could be Man City's next manager?
It's a possible. If he gets Burnley up and he does, he keeps them up next year and he does well, then when Pep decides to retire, then it's a possibility. But I think he's still got to go a little bit more before City would be prepared to sort of take that sort of gamble.
Yeah, totally agree. Steve, 2 winless teams or sides struggling to get a result. Cardiff City against Wigan. The Torres hasn't done a bad job, but they haven't transferred their performances into results. Even money Cardiff is a bit short, Steve, even though they are the better team. Which way do you see it going?
Yeah, I think it is close. I was impressed with Cardiff last weekend against Leeds. I thought they really played well. Wigan have been disappointing. Kolo Touré came in and said he's going to stiffen up the defence, but that doesn't seem to be happening. I think that I think Cardiff are favourites, and if there was to be a winner, I suspect it would be them.
Yeah, I totally agree. On to our second page, where Hull City, what's a little bit of the game against Fulham last week, Steve? Didn't really impress me too much, but Huddersfield got beat at Preston. Another game which I think is going to be tight. Of the 2 teams, I fancy Hull, but not really confident. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. I think Hull will start as should start as favourites. Huddersfield have been a bit disappointing. Had a couple of wins recently, but since then the form's dipped again. Hull have picked themselves up in a little bit, and in patches that they had a go against Fulham last week. I think rightly so they should start as favourites, and I think if there was to be a winner, Hull by a goal.
Yeah. West Brom travelling to Luton. Steve, big game for the Baggies. Which way is it going?
Yeah, I think the 2 West Brom certainly start as favourites. They rested 1 or 2 and nearly came unstuck at Chesterfield in the cup. But if you look at their league form, I mean, they are one of the behind Burnley, and they're probably one of the most informed teams. So I think that Luton don't lose many at home, but I think that West Brom will start as favourites. Yeah,
I agree. Luton, I think the only game they've lost at home was against Preston, but they're unbeaten in the last 8 at home. But West Brom have been in form, won 8, lost 1 of the last 9. So of the 2 teams, it should be West Brom, but the draw is obviously a player. Steve, I watched a bit of Middlesbrough against Brighton last week. I know they got outplayed towards the end, but I was impressed with what they looked like, Middlesbrough, and I think they'd be too good for Millwall. How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Middlesbrough would, the result would be a bit closer. They put out a strong team, but it just shows the strength and depth of Brighton, really, doesn't it? Yeah. Rather than anything else. But I think Michael Carrick has got them playing well with Akpom up front, who seem to be scoring on almost every league game. I think that again, Millwall, are not a bad side, and they're in and around that playoff position. But I think Middlesbrough will be too strong. Yeah,
I just said Millwall. It's hard. They're a very direct team, and against football-playing teams, they can get caught. They're a set-piece dominated side. Obviously, they'll cause trouble. But, even though they did get beat 5-1, a few of those goals, they shouldn't have given away. But I think they'll learn from that. Being a young team, I think 9 to 10 is a good price. Steve, I can't get my head around my Preston North End side. At home against the Norwich side, I don't know. I think there'll be goals in this, Steve. But which way? I fancy Norwich of the two teams. I hope I'm wrong, Steve, but which way do you see it?
Well, look, you've got Davy Wagner in there. He hasn't really had a chance to get hold of the team. They obviously lost in the cup. I'm sure, with his record with Huddersfield, he knows the Championship. I suspect he will turn things around. But they've had a really poor run before and since the World Cup. And as you say, with Preston, I mean, they were making it hard to beat and then lost a few. Came back recently. I'm not sure that Norwich should start as clear favourites. They won't be, I think Preston on their day is, I think are more than capable of holding them. So I think this is going to be a very close game. Yeah,
I'm hoping it's on ESPN, but I doubt it. Steve, Reading against QPR. Reading going well, won 3 of the last 4, especially at home, against a QPR team who I don't think their tight Loftus Road pitch suits them. They've got some nice ball players. I think they'll start getting better results away from home than at home. Which way do you see it?
Yeah, I think there's certainly. I think there'll be goals in this. Reading, interestingly enough, they've just signed Andy Carroll on a contract for a couple of years.
Okay. They
obviously feel he can still, add something to them. I think Reading probably start as favourites. QPR, on their league form in the last sort of 8-10 games, they're near the bottom.
Yeah.
They shocked everybody with a surprise result a little while ago, but otherwise, I think Reading probably starts as favourites, but I think there's goals in it.
Yeah, QPR played fairly well against Sheffield United, who scored an injury time to get a point. So on that assumption, I think fancy them. Sheffield United, Steve, be too good for Stoke?
Yeah, they should do. Look, Stoke, are very inconsistent. You're not sure what you're going to get from them. Very hard to sort of pick a result unless they're playing a team right at the bottom.
Yeah.
Sheffield United, I think really want to make sure they don't sort of lose touch with Burnley, and I think that I'd be very surprised if they don't win it. I think there'd be goals. Stoke do score goals, but I think Sheffield United should edge it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, the next game, Steve, Swansea have let me down so many times, I don't know which way to go. So I took the easy way out and went for goals. I think the draw's a player in the Sunderland game ago against Sunderland. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, Swansea sort of flattered to deceive. I mean, they should be, with the sort of possession stats they have and some of the players they got, they should be much higher in the league. Sunderland are having a good run at the moment. They've got Ross Stewart back, who knows where the goal is.
Yeah.
I think there will be goals. I suspect they could easily cancel themselves out. I don't think there's a clear winner here.
Yeah, and Watford, too good for Blackpool?
They should be. I mean, Blackpool had a fantastic result against Forest last week.
Yeah.
It's probably more about the fact that he rotated his squad, Steve Cooper, and those players hadn't played together. And it showed once it went 2 down, they just fell apart.
Yeah.
But I think that Watford should be too strong, and I'd be very surprised if it isn't a home win.
Yeah, it should be. I think Blackpool will score. So it was Watford to win, Blackpool to both teams to score. I think it was like 28 to 10. So I may have a nibble on that on Saturday. Steve, pressure time again. I need your best bet and value bet, please.
Yeah, I'm sort of torn on both of them really, but I think I'm going to go for Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
My best bet. I think that they should be strong at home. And my value bet, I was going to go for your boys Preston, but I think I might go for Brighton. I think that I think those odds are a bit skewed in favour of Liverpool.
Yeah.
Brighton will be up for it.
Yeah, I'm all over Everton this weekend. Frank Lampard, liked him as a player. I think the team will respond. If he plays as 3 centre halves, they haven't they've had a couple of bad results. And I think they got too cocky after drawing 1-1 at Man City. They thought they were better than what they actually are. And Southampton, great result against City. Coming back to earth, I think they're going to get a good hiding. So I totally agree with Brighton, 23 to 10 each way, the value bet. That'll be for me, Steve. Steve, enjoy the game tonight. Good luck. As I say, we've got one of our remaining entrances right behind your boys tonight. Enjoy.
Well, let's hope we can do something.
Okay,
have a
Steve.
good week, Buzz. Catch you over the weekend.
Okie dokie. Thank you. Yeah, that's our UK correspondent, Stevie Braham. Big time Fulham man. PSL, there were 2 games in midweek. I watched Sundowns beat Chipper United. It was comfortable, a 2-1 victory as I've seen. Chipper scored late, great header, but Sundowns totally in control. And last night, Stellenbosch were in control for most of the games, conceded late, and Maruma Gallants came back to equalise 1-1. On to this week's game. Friday night, Moses Mabhida, Amazulu versus Chiefs. From my recollection, Amazulu always struggle to beat Chiefs. Chiefs have won their last 4 away from home. Sorry, Lesotho fans, but I think Kaizer Chiefs at 17-10 is worth a bet. Maruma Gallants at home don't get beat, but they don't win at home. Richards Bay don't concede many. They've only lost 1 of the last 10. And I watched that against Mamelodi Sundowns last week in Mlazi. Terrible pitch, it was pouring. They did get beat. I don't see Richards Bay getting beat here, so it's Richards Bay in the draw for me. Orlando Pirates, they've lost their last 3, but Golden Arrows, very fortunate to get a dodgy penalty against Supersport last week when they won 2-1. I don't see them beating Orlando Pirates. 7-10 is a bit short, but of the 2 teams, I fancy Orlando Pirates. For me, Cape Town City, the pitch where they play at the rugby stadium, Cape Town, doesn't suit them. But Chipper United always give you a chance. They always try and play, attacking both teams to score. I think I saw 12-10 this morning. That'll be my play. I think this has got score draw written all over it. On to our second page, Stellenbosch, Sekhukhune. Sekhukhune have been impressed. New managers taken over. They won the last 2. They did beat Chiefs. Stellenbosch give you a chance. They do play well, young team. I think the draw is a massive player here. Don't be surprised if Sekhukhune win 3 in a row. Morocco Swallows, I wasn't impressed when they got beat 2-0 by Sundowns, but it was Sundowns and they beat Chipper 2-0 the next week. Facing a TS Galaxy side, always difficult to beat. 5 draws out of the last 6. A draw a player, but if I have to go for one team to win it, I think it'll be Swallows. I'm all over Royal AM. I saw highlights of them beating Amazulu 2-0, and I think they'll be too good for Maritzburg. Maritzburg had a great result away from home last week, but they've lost their last 4 at home. And at Harry Gwala, I'm just worried that Maritzburg, who are in the relegation battle, are going to continue to get out of it. But Royal AM 18-10, it'll have my money. And Sundowns Supersport. Sundowns have won 10 of the last 11. The game they lost was against Supersport United. Supersport are one of those teams that don't try and play the silky football. Gavin Hunt's got them playing direct to Krobler, and I think it's the other striker. I think they'll score Supersport United, but the form that Sundowns are in, it is difficult to look past them. So rather than take 6-10, I'll be on Supersport United, both teams to score, which will be around even money, double the odds. On to our soccer exotics for the weekend and our Gold Circle score 6. I'm going Man City, win and draw at Man United. I'm looking for the upset in the Brighton-Liverpool game, so I'm going the field in that particular clash. I think Everton will be too good for Southampton. I'm going the field in the Notts Forest-Leicester City game. I don't see Wolves losing at home to West Ham, and Brentford surely have got to beat Bournemouth at home 2-1-6. On to our Phumelela Soccer 6 for the weekend. I'm going Man City to be too good for Man United at Old Trafford. I'm going Rayo Vallecano, win and draw at Real Valladolid. I'm going Richards Bay to avoid defeat at Maruma Gallants. I'm throwing the draw in with Orlando Pirates against Golden Arrows. I'm siding with Cape Town City to avoid defeat at Chipper United. And I'm going Stellenbosch, win and draw at home against Sekhukhune United, 192. On to our score 10 for the weekend. I'm going Man City, win and draw at home at Man United. I'm going Blackburn Rovers, win and draw at Rotherham United. The field in the Brighton versus Liverpool match. I'm banking Everton to beat Southampton. The field in the Notts Forest versus Leicester City fixture. On to the second page, I'm going Wolves, win and draw at home against West Ham. Burnley to beat Coventry City. Norwich City to avoid defeat at Preston North End, and ending up with 2 bankers, Sheffield United to beat Stoke City and Brentford to beat Bournemouth, 288. On to the Soccer 13, which looks really difficult in my eyes especially. I'm banking Brentford to beat Bournemouth, chancing Brighton, win and draw at home against Liverpool, Everton to be too good at home for Southampton, going Notts Forest, win and draw against Leicester, Wolves, win and draw against West Ham, Birmingham City, win and draw away from home against Bristol City. I'm chancing Cardiff City to beat Wigan Athletic at home. Onto our second page, I'm chancing another team, Hull City to beat Huddersfield. Have to side with West Brom to win at Luton, and I think Middlesbrough will be too good for Millwall. Going Norwich City to avoid defeat at Preston. Queen's Park Rangers, another away side, avoiding defeat at Reading. And last but not least, Swansea City win and draw at Sunderland, 256. On to our budgies bets for the weekend. I'm going Everton to beat Southampton. Going Brighton +1 handicap, which Brighton win and draw. I'm going Newcastle to beat Fulham and over 2.5 goals. And over 2.5 goals in the Tottenham Arsenal game, 2,800 to 200. On to our Premiership team goals only. I'm going Brighton, Everton, Newcastle and Tottenham, all to score over 1.5 goals, 3,900 to 200. On to the Championship, which is always tricky, but I see Middlesbrough beating Millwall, Burnley beating Coventry City and over 2.5 goals, and I think there's going to be plenty of goals in the Preston Norwich City game, 2,000 to 200. Our Championship, both teams to score sides are Bristol City, Birmingham City, Cardiff City, Wigan, Sunderland, Swansea City and Watford Blackpool, 2,300 to 200. Most of the betting wasn't out for the PSL, so I didn't want to chance some of the games I didn't like. So I'm turning to Spain, where I'm going Osasuna to beat Mallorca, Real Sociedad to beat Athletic Bilbao, and both teams to score in the Girona Seville, Real Valladolid, Rayo Vallecano matches, 3,200 to 200. Our Collis King 6 or Nixa. I'm going Everton to beat Southampton, Chelsea to beat Crystal Palace, Newcastle to beat Fulham, Burnley to beat Coventry, Middlesbrough to beat Millwall, and Osasuna to beat Mallorca. Great odds, 7,900 to 200. Please remember our next Postnet Last One Standing competition starts this Saturday. Need any help? Give me a shout and I'll help you with pleasure. Thank you for listening, and please remember to stay on side.